Drick's room. My name is Drick. So in the world of college admissions, you may have heard of this term spike floating around. Today we're going to be talking about what exactly a spike is and whether or not you even need one to get into a top college or university. But as always, I'm not an admissions officer or anything, and everything I say is based on my own experience and research. I think today's video is going to be more opinionated than some of my other videos, so just be aware that nothing I say here is the be-all end-all when it comes to college applications. I'm just here to share my thoughts. Okay, so when you hear these talks about having a spike, you'll usually also hear about what's called being well-rounded. These two ideas will typically be held as direct opposites of each other, which is something I don't necessarily follow, but for right now we'll treat them as such. Generally, in the world of college admissions, being well-rounded basically means being average or mediocre. I think that what counts as average or mediocre is going to be dependent on the applicant pool of the school you're applying to. For top schools, being well-rounded may look like having straight A's or nearly straight A's, taking AP classes, doing pretty well on standardized tests, joining some clubs, playing a sport, having a good amount of volunteer hours, and so on. If you imagine a stats wheel from a video game, this applicant would have their stat points distributed somewhat evenly across their different attributes. And as for an applicant with a spike, they are the kind of applicant that's really good at a certain thing. Maybe they're an Olympic hopeful swimmer, or already conducting PhD level research, or the best bagpipes player in the country. These kinds of applicants are sometimes referred to as world-class because of their outstanding achievement in a certain field. Sure, they'll have good grades and stuff, but the thing that they're really good at is what really stands out. Again, if you imagine a character's stats wheel, this kind of applicant would have one attribute that's really high and typically lower stats for their other attributes. Essentially, well-roundedness is similar to being a jack of all trades, master of none, and having a spike means being really, really good at one thing. Alright, so you have one type of applicant that's good at everything but not particularly outstanding at any of them, and you have another type of applicant that really excels at one particular thing at a super high level but may not be as good as the first applicant on most other things. So the question is, which applicant should you aim to be? If you've already read some articles online about this topic, they'll tell you that having a spike is better than being well-rounded in almost all cases, and that colleges will almost always take a spike applicant over a well-rounded applicant. The reasoning is that applicants who are considered to be well-rounded are pretty common in the applicant pools for top schools. At that level, most applicants are going to have high grades and test scores, good extracurriculars, and so on. These aren't necessarily weak applicants by any means, but they also aren't really the type to stand out as much since being well-rounded is so common. On the other hand, applicants with a spike are a lot rarer because not as many people can succeed at such a high level in their respective fields. Because of this, spike applicants will tend to stand out more, which means that they tend to be viewed as stronger applicants, which means that they tend to be accepted more often. You may have also heard the saying that schools want a well-rounded class, not well-rounded applicants. In other words, instead of having a class full of students that are good at everything, they would want a class full of students that are each super good at one particular thing. I think it's also fair to say that top schools want to attract the kinds of students that will be able to contribute meaningfully to their college community and that will go on to do great things in the world after college. You know, they don't want to miss out on the opportunity to snag the next Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg. And according to some, the best way to see who's going to be successful in the future is to see who's already successful now. Past success indicates future success. And what that means here is that when colleges are looking at applicants, the ones who are already really successful in high school are likely to continue being successful in college and beyond. In other words, the spike applicants. They're already doing amazing things in high school, and they'll probably keep doing amazing things. Well-rounded applicants, on the other hand, don't have as much outstanding success to show, which means that colleges don't have as good of an idea of how these applicants may turn out. Sure, there might be a diamond in the rough just waiting to be polished, but why take that risk when there are already diamonds that you can just further polish? So between well-rounded applicants and spike applicants, it would only make sense that colleges would want to pick the spike applicant. So these articles will tell you that the best way to increase your chances of getting into school is to develop some kind of spike. Being well-rounded is the worst possible thing you could be in the situation, because if you're well-rounded, why would a school take you over the thousands of other applicants that are just as well-rounded? So if you're well-rounded, you can say goodbye to your chances of getting into your dream school, unless you get lucky and get picked up among the sea of other well-rounded applicants. But honestly, whether or not this is true, who knows? As you can tell from the title of this video, I don't really think you have to have a spike in order to get into a certain school. Well-rounded applicants don't have to leave it all up to luck. You know, I obviously think that being world-class will definitely help your case. If you are an Olympic level swimmer, PhD level researcher, or even the best bagpipes player in the world, you may very well be a shoo-in for whatever school you want. I do think that these world-class applicants have the best chance of getting into their dream school. But again, that doesn't mean more well-rounded applicants have no chance. I wouldn't consider myself as a spike applicant, but I still ended up here. How that happened exactly, I don't really know for sure, but I do know that it didn't have to do with being world-class in any particular field. You know, not everyone can be world-class. Not everyone can pursue something to the highest level possible, whether that be a limitation of the resources or the availability of opportunity or whatever else. And in the first place, the idea of everyone being world-class doesn't really make much sense. If everyone is world-class, if everyone is excelling in a particular field, then no one is standing out. What was once considered world-class becomes the new normal. This kind of reminds me of one of Syndrome's lines from The Incredibles, "When everyone is super, no one will be." I think we can see this idea in practice even today. You know, a lot of students may feel like college admissions are becoming more and more competitive every year. Acceptance rates are going down because more people are applying to colleges, and the bar seems to be higher and higher every year. Standardized test scores are higher than what they used to be, and it seems like everyone's starting a non-profit or doing research these days. So while these things may have seemed more impressive just a few years prior, they've become more like something that students feel that they have to do just to have a chance. What may have once been considered a true spike has slowly inched closer to becoming part of what's considered being well-rounded. So in this way, it feels like the ultra-competitive nature of college admissions leaves behind all these well-rounded applicants because it seems more and more difficult to really stand out with every coming year. But I would disagree. I don't agree with the idea that being well-rounded means just being mediocre or average. I think well-rounded applicants can definitely have a solid shot at their top choice schools. I've said this before and I'll say it again. I think that execution can be just as important or even more important than the content when it comes to crafting your college applications. When you're applying to a school, your goal isn't to flex all of your accomplishments, but rather to show colleges and universities that you would be a good fit for them. And this may be easier when you are a world-class applicant, but you can do this just as well as a more well-rounded applicant. This all comes down to the themes of your application and the personal narrative that you want to convey. And I guess this is where I would shy away from the well-rounded versus spike argument and instead focus on this idea of personal theme and narrative. And this means creating an application that's able to convey a message to colleges about why they should accept you. The different parts of your application come together to tell the story of who you are and who you want to be. And in doing so, you'll be able to reveal your character to them, which I think is going to be the better indicator of future success. And this is something you can do whether you have a spike or consider yourself to be more well-rounded. And since your goal is to tell your story, this means you can do whatever you want. Some advice you'll see online about how to increase your chances of getting into a school will tell you to pursue something really unique, which by nature will make it easier to be relatively world-class at it. If you really want to get into Stanford, then you should try learning how to play the sogum at a concert level or become a nationally ranked curling player. But to me, this feels kinda gimmicky and disingenuous. I would say to not force a spike for the sake of college admissions. Like I've already mentioned, you don't even really need a spike, so just do what you want to do. And on that note, you may have also read about activities you shouldn't do in high school. Don't waste your time doing volunteer hours if you aren't starting a successful nonprofit. Don't do a sport if you aren't going to be nationally ranked at it. Only do the things you're good at and pursue them to the highest level you can. To me, that's a pretty lousy mindset to have. You don't want to have a fixed mindset because if you only do things you're really good at, you'll never have the chance to grow. Instead, you want to have a growth mindset and do the things that you really want to do, even if you may not be the best at them at first. The goal here is to learn and grow. It may sound cheesy, but you should do what you're passionate about. I think it would be pretty unfun to live and breathe for the sole sake of getting into a school, because what happens if you still don't get in? You know, live for yourself, because if you do get into your dream school, then you were already doing everything you needed to do. And if you don't get in, then at least you didn't waste all that time doing something that you weren't even interested in. Doing things that you're genuinely passionate about will do more for you in the long run than doing something that you're not interested in but you think will look impressive. Because when you're writing those essays, you gotta write from the heart. And you're really only going to be able to do that for the things that you were genuinely interested in. I think that some people feel that they have to be successful in order to get into college, but I think that defeats the point of it. College is a means to an end, not the end itself. College helps you to learn and grow so that you can go on to accomplish your goals. Getting into a certain college shouldn't be the end goal itself. Because if you are already wildly successful, then what do you need college for? So in short, you don't need a spike. All you need is to really build on your personal theme and you'll be Gucci. Thanks for sticking around till the end. I'll see y'all next time. Bye!